Hello and welcome to Talking About Success. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, often referred to as America's #1 success coach, chairman of the Canfield Training Group, and the author of numerous New York Times bestsellers, including the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and most recently, The Success Principles, How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And today I have a special guest for you. Her name is Debbi Sluys, and Debbi's a coach, a trainer, and a speaker who specializes in helping people expand their brain's potential to see what is possible for their future using vision boards. And as a former child care director, Debbi has studied personal development for over 30 years and has facilitated and witnessed science at work by guiding over 1,000 clients to identify and declare their vision, both online and in person, in her Dare to Declare studio. Now, Debbi has been featured on the High Performing Coach podcast and the Voice of Full Business Radio, and she's here today all the way from Ontario, Canada, in our Santa Barbara studios. Welcome to the show, Debbi.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Vision boards is one of my favorite topics on the planet, and you have some interesting, what I want to say, you've learned a lot about it, doing it, and you have some interesting nuances I think are valuable for our viewers. Now, I gave a brief introduction of you, but could you give us just a little more about your background, who you are, and what exactly you do?
Thank you. So I'm the founder of Dare to Declare. It's a company where I offer in-person as well as on location and vision boards online. And I also have recently begun an academy where I support entrepreneurs and coaches to offer vision board workshops to their clients using my framework and methodology. And it's just been so exciting and rewarding to create this legacy for my company in just such a short period of time. I just really am passionate and love what I'm able to do.
Now, you were in the child development world before. What made you move into vision boards? How did you get started with that?
Being an early childhood educator isn't what I did, it's who I am. And so I still consider myself an early childhood educator. Mm-hmm. I loved being in the early years field. And what I noticed, though, was with my employees, so I was a director, I had 4 locations, it was not-for-profit, multi-site, but my employees, when they would come to me in my office, the struggles and challenges they were facing weren't professional development, it was more to do with personal development. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't in the scope of my job description. And so set that aside. And then what I also was doing was I was doing some professional development. I was doing some speaking in Ontario and beyond. And I was asked for a professional bio as well as photo. So I went and had a photo shoot done. And when I looked at the photos from that photographer, I saw what was possible for the first time. It was like magical. It was like a peek into my future where I looked at the images and I said, oh my goodness, I want to be her. And she said, you are. And so that was the first time that I made a connection between an image and a vision for what was possible. But I still hadn't discovered vision boards yet. But I did follow my intuition, where I knew that I was meant for something bigger. I also knew that my employees were looking for personal development. So I put it out there to the universe that I just knew I wanted to do something bigger. I picked up my photos. I went to a web design company, and I've never been this gutsy before. And I said to them, I'm going to do something really big. I just don't know what it is yet. And that was 4 years ago. And they said, all right. So I really did it backwards. Like most people who develop their brand, it's like they know what they're going to do, but we started working on the brand before I even knew what the vehicle was going to be. I didn't even know it was going to be vision boards yet. And across my news feed came the idea of vision boards, and I was like, that's it, vision boards. And so so that was really where it all started. Was I leaned into my intuition, I trusted the process, I surrounded myself with amazing people, and I actually started to create this company called Dare to Declare.
Very cool, very cool. So now you started to create the company, you built what you call the studio. Tell us more about that. How did all that come about?
My husband owned a construction company, and I remember visiting him one day on his lunch and on my lunch, and I was looking around the space, and he's like, I see that look in your eye. What are you thinking? And I said, well, this boardroom would be extraordinary for vision board workshops. And he said, well, you know what would be even better is if we took down this wall and we took down this wall and I just relocated my office so you can have this space. And so there was a real gift in that we then renovated that whole upstairs of this, industrial space, this warehouse, to create a beautiful, Hygge, you know that name, Danish for cozy, inspired studio, where it's all natural materials, but it was built specifically to house vision board workshops. So the tables are specifically designed with spacious enough to have two people sitting side by side to create vision boards. I want to say 1,000, but I know I have hundreds and hundreds of magazines. And so it's really like this beautiful playroom for adults, but it's just people say, I want to move in here. Like it's like a gorgeous apartment. So
that's cool.
That was created. And so that's in my hometown of Ontario.
Mm-hmm. And then what moved you from doing it there to online?
What happened was, like the whole world, was this pandemic. So what I did was, as I said, I was working still in childcare full time. And then I went and spoke at a women's conference. And one of the other speakers, she said this: what's the price you're paying for not following your dream?
Good question.
And I remember standing at the back and thinking, oh. And then the next question she asked was, what's the price those around you are paying for you not following your dream? And I thought about my brand new grandson, who had just been born the month before. And I thought, the price is too high. I get to do this now. And so I made that, I remember, it's a crystallized moment standing right there, and I thought, I'm stepping full-time into Dare to Declare. So I gave my board of directors, because I'd been there for 30 years, so I gave them notice, and that was January 2020. And then, as we all know, March 2020, COVID hit, and I thought, oh great, I just quit my 30-year career for in-person workshops. Oh dear. And so I thought, okay, but God's leading me in this way that's really powerful. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. So I decided, I offered a free workshop based on a single word called a power word, and it's actually become a signature workshop for me as well. And I invited people to come in my network, and 65 people registered. And I thought, okay, I hear you. This is something. And so from that, I created 10 paying clients. And that was the first time then I started to offer vision boards online. And now I have clients from all over the world. So I joined a coaching program, and I wanted to learn with the best. So I jumped head first into that because I had just left my full-time career. And what happened was my colleagues, the other fellow coaches, were curious about vision boards because they'd heard about them. But what I've discovered is a lot of people know of vision boards, but they don't actually know how to do it in a very intentional way to support clients, especially in the coaching realm. And so I was doing vision boards with them as they became my clients. And they said, oh, Deb, can we screenshot this? Do you mind if we use this with our coaching clients? I'm like, no, sure, just give me credit. And they're like, okay. And I thought, this doesn't feel intentional. This doesn't feel professional. And I felt like the universe was, again, knocking on my door. And I was so afraid because I thought, who am I to start an academy? Who am I to start something new? Like, isn't there a school? Isn't there someone overseeing this? And I thought, no, there isn't. I get to create this. Just like I did when I started my company and was really gutsy, I just followed my intuition, and I hired a coach, a course content creator, to start with the academy. And we got that going this past year, actually. I can't believe we're still in 2021. It was just this year that I started the academy.
That's great. Well, you talked about coaches and heard about vision boards, weren't quite sure what they were, didn't know how to use them. Let's make sure all our viewers know. I kind of assume everyone knows what a vision board is, but just take a moment and talk about what a vision board is, how you create one. Just give us some background so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Sure. And you were such a big influence in my research as I was looking about vision boards. So I really garnered a lot of information from your videos and from, like I said, the One Day to Greatness that I had gone to. And so a vision board is a tool to live an intentional life, to live on purpose with purpose. And it's a visual tool. So I actually am a big proponent of paper. So I encourage people to use magazines, where people really resist that. They're like, oh, nobody has magazines anymore. But that's not true. That's just a story. And so, because again, as an educator, I love the playfulness of paper. I also believe when it's in your hand, it's then in your heart. There's just something different about engaging the brain by actually having something tangible in the hand. So it's about the use of images, and words are there to complement it. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that after. But the images are about your best life. And so a vision, it's different than a goal board. A goal board is something where you actually know the how. You can actually see how it might happen. A vision, it really requires divine intervention. It's a miracle. So I encourage people to dream bigger. I actually had a client the other day tell me I was a vision whisperer. I was like, I love that. I'll take that. I acknowledge that. And because I encouraged her to dream bigger than feels reasonable. It's not where somebody said, that's not even reasonable, Deb. That feels ridiculous. And I said, now we're on to something. That's actually a vision.
So basically, people are putting pictures on their vision board of things that would be their ideal vision of their life if they could live that ideal vision, and then words that would describe that as well. Okay, so everyone watching, you know what we're talking about now. So let me ask you this. I know you offer a certification program, training coaches, as you mentioned, you're in your academy. Talk a little bit about that.
The program is only 6 weeks because I really want people to hit the ground running, that they feel like they've got something really tangible that they can use within their coaching as a standalone tool to earn revenue, make impact with their clients. And so the 6 weeks, it's not coaching, it's definitely instruction, where it's 2 hours with me. And my classes right now are between 10 and 12 participants. I like to keep it small so that there's lots of rich discussion. It's on a platform where we're growing a library as well of resources. And people at the end receive a certificate, they receive a guide, so that if they're not used to doing workshops, that they're going to be able to really, like I said, hit the ground running and be able to offer them straight away. There's a Facebook group as well, because this community that's growing is phenomenal and they can support each other. I meet with them once a month. So it is a 6-week hot launch, but then they have ongoing support for a year with me as well. And we have open Academy chats once a month as well.
That's great. Now, I've interacted with you before we came on air and here on air, and I've noticed you have an amazingly positive attitude. Was that always the case? Have you always been naturally this positive?
I have. I was told that I was a happy child as well. But just like with the vision board, becoming intentional is that, you know, really, and I know that you emphasize this as well, around gratitude, really beginning with gratitude. And as I started to lean in about vision boards and understand and dig into what a vision board is, I love the idea of it helping you figure out, what do I want? But taking it a step further, it's an expression of gratitude. And what I mean by that is that it really is a way for us to fully live out our life. And it's become my why. And I'm adopted, and I was adopted at 6 months old. And recently I heard this story from my adopted father. I'd never known this story until just a few months ago. And he told me that when he and my mom, I'm the oldest in the family, and when they were trying to conceive and the doctor told them that they couldn't, in April of 1968, they made the decision that they were going to adopt. I didn't arrive till September 1968, but I was born April 22nd, 1968. And so the week that my parents decided to adopt, it was like, again, God just went, oh, okay, then here she is, and you're supposed to be there. And so I know that before I was conscious, God had this plan for me, and he has rescued me. I've been able to meet my biological family, and I know that the life I've been given now is a privilege, it's a blessing, and I'm just so grateful. And the way I get to express that is by fully dreaming as big as I possibly can, and into this gift of a life that I've been given.
That's why I love it. Now, I always tell people, if you want to fast track spiritual growth in your life, get married, have children, start a business. So you've done all three of those. So when you're starting your Dare to Declare company and you're getting all this up and running, were there any defining moments for you that occurred that like shifted or said, okay, I'm going this way or that way, or how was that for you starting a business? You've been managing a business in a sense, but you hadn't really started it, had you?
Right. So starting my own business. So as I said, I was researching using your information, and then, a myriad of other sources as well online to discover what do I want my curriculum to look like that represents my early years background, my Christian background, as well of what I was pulling from various sources. In the early years field, we called it emergent. So I was really pulling from an emergent way of being. And one of the things that I first decided to do was create a vision board workshop called the 7 Life Areas. And so it was based on the 7 areas. And then I had a request from the manager of the Women's Center. She was actually a parent that used the childcare that I was a director of. And she said, Deb, when you're done your studio, because this was just in the very construction phases of the studio, and I was just building my curriculum. She said, when you're finished, would you be willing to offer a vision board workshop for the women who are in crisis, who use the services of the Women's Center? Absolutely, I would love to do that. It's on me. It's my donation. I'd love to do that. And so as I was thinking about them, and once I had the 7 Life Areas curriculum created, I thought, you know what? If I'm going to put myself in her shoes. If I was a woman using the services of a women's shelter, would I be able to plan and set a vision for 7 areas? That's a lot. Mm-hmm. I think that I would be, some basic things like financial perhaps, and maybe housing. I don't know. I haven't been in that situation, but I wanted to be respectful of her. So I decided to redo the curriculum and base it on intuition, because I thought that's the one thing I know I have in common with her. And I would imagine if you're in crisis, your intuition is even more heightened, and everyone deserves to dream. So I just pushed aside the 7 life areas, and we just opened it up to what was possible using the intuition, getting into the magazines, just pulling out images that speak to you. Like, lean into how does it make you feel? If it feels good, rip out the image, and then we'll deal with it later. And what's happened is that's become my staple workshop. I don't even do the 7 life areas anymore, because it's now everyone enjoys that process where I really lean into the using the right side of the brain and that creative side and using your intuition. And then the 7 life areas are more of a reference that comes sort of midway through the workshop.
Sure, that's cool. Now, you've worked with a lot of clients. Are any stories of their breakthroughs or their successes stick out in your mind?
I'm so blessed when that happens, and when they share that with me. It's like you talked about being a parent. Mm-hmm. It's like that joy that you feel when your children succeed. That's how I feel when my clients have successes. It just is just like this ripple effect, like the pebble in the pond. So Christina, she came to do a retreat with me a few years ago. And I remember her sitting on the rug in the middle of these tables, all surrounded by magazines. And she just popped her head up and she said, you know what, Deb? I have a story. I have a story within me and it needs to come out. I said, okay, tell me more. She said, I need to write a book. I said, all right. Well, that goes on your vision board. So she just put it on her social media a month ago. She is a bestseller.
Wow.
Yes. And so it's just amazing. And she is now also a coach and just impacting so many lives. It's just extraordinary. And then I'm thinking about another client that I had who she actually became a one-to-one coaching client, but we did a vision board as well together. So I love when I can do that as well. Not just have the vision board, but I'm able then to extend the coaching beyond the vision board. So then we can create a path with goals to support the vision. Got to do that with her. We created this vision board, and but she was so stuck when she first came, like immobilized. She said she'd come home from work, sit on her couch, not even want to go for a walk. She said she used to knit mittens, and she said she had a half-knit mitten sitting across the room just staring at her, taunting her. And anyways, she said that when we worked into her vision and created this vision board, she loved cooking. And she also loves the legacy of her grandmother, who's Polish. And so we just dug into that more and more, and she uncovered that she wanted to create this business, and she did. So now she sells pierogies. Do you know what pierogies are? Yeah. And she has a variety, and within 6 months, she now is supplying grocery stores with her pierogies. So she went from zero, had no idea what she was going to do, left her 9 to 5, and now has started her business, and it's thriving, and it's named after her grandmother in her honor, and is just so incredibly happy, which is really the ultimate satisfaction for me when I see my clients just so much joy.
My college roommate was Polish, so I've eaten pierogies at his house, so I do know what they are. If you had one main message for people today, what would it be?
It would be to create a vision board, and to see it as an expression of gratitude. I think of it like my children when I give them Christmas gifts. And I have, we were talking earlier, I have a son who's 30, and I bought him a pair of slippers last Christmas. Last Christmas, yes. And I said, "You like them?" Because I saw him wearing them. He's like, "Moo," he calls me Moose. "Moo, I love them." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, that makes me so happy to know that you're wearing them," because I didn't know if they're the right style. Well, I just think about our Creator. And when we fully use this life that we've been given, how it's actually glorifying back. It's like a state of worship. It's like thanksgiving and gratitude for this life that we've been given. So that's the message I would give.
There's a metaphor in there somewhere. We're wearing our slippers from God. God goes, "Oh, very good."
Exactly.
Giving us a gift and we're using it. I love it. That really is powerful when you think about it. We've all been given gifts. And when we use them, the person that gave us the gift, the universe, God, is pleased with that. That makes total sense. I never thought about it that way before. Thank you for that. So just talk for a moment, because we're going to run out of time in a second. Are there some common mistakes people make when they make vision boards that you've noticed?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've noticed, if you look on Pinterest or online, is most vision boards, I don't know where this came from, are collages, like very busy. Images overlapping one another. There isn't any kind of rhyme or reason. And I'm a big proponent of having some white space. So just like, if I'm looking in this space here, like the artwork hanging, it's not hanging on top of each other. It has a respectable distance to give the eye a place to rest. Or if you think about margins in a book or chapters in a book, our eye needs a place to rest. So because the magic, so to speak, of a vision board is focus, which then produces the energy and the feelings, which then promotes the law of attraction, why not give it the most optimal layout in order to be able to do that? So I'm a big proponent of leaving some white space around the images versus them being all overlapping. So that would be one of the mistakes that I see. The other is that people tend to overload words versus images. And our brains actually process images 60 times more quickly than words.
Right.
And images is where the feeling and the emotion lies. We can picture ourselves. I remember from being in your seminar, is like we can picture ourselves in an image. It's more difficult for our brain to think about a word, say dream, right? Compared to someone, an image like someone sitting, looking off into the distance. We can imagine ourselves sitting there looking at whatever that person's looking at versus just the word dream. So I encourage people to use words as an accessory, not as the primary real estate on their vision board. The last thing I would say is people, they think about money and they'll just put a pile of money on their vision board. And money, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't have the vision behind it. It could be $1, it could be $1 million. It doesn't matter unless you have the vision behind it. So I really encourage people to not just put a picture of money, but to go beyond that. That's where that vision beyond the vision is. What do you want for your life, where the money is more of the how.
So you're saying if you want the money to buy a car or to go to college or to take your family on vacation, you'd have images of the things the money would buy. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. So that it would be the vacation with the family, and then even more so, what does that feel like? So we might see a family with an image of people, splashing around in the water, smiling. Yeah.
So if someone wants to get in contact with you, they want to perhaps work with you to develop a vision board, or maybe they want to get trained at your academy, where do they go? How do they find you?
Very easy. My website, it's declare.com.
Dare2declare.com. Really simple. So anything else you'd like to finish up with before we go? Any final words?
I'm just so appreciative. I want to say that this is part of my vision. I mean, to know that I only met you, I did actually. I stood beside you. You signed my book, The Success Principles, 3.5 years ago. And I put in my book that day that I want to do something big with Jack Canfield. And here I am. And so dreams come true.
Well, you are doing something big. So thank you for joining us, Debbi. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And thank all of you for joining us today. Vision boards are powerful, and I think you learned a little more about how to do them correctly today. Make sure you think about what you want, what's your dream, make a vision board. And if you really want to do it with someone who knows what they're doing and can guide you, make sure you go to her website and take advantage of that. And if you're a coach and you want to integrate this in your work, which I encourage you to do, also go to her website, find out more. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you here again next week when I'll bring you another person that can change your life. Thank you for watching this episode of Talking About Success. Remember, your success is a journey. So for more information and free resources to help you, be sure to visit jackcanfield.com/learn more.